So I made a video. Valeda responded. I responded back. She responded back. Time to change it up a bit. I watched the first part of her re-response, and I thought it was fun. I thought it was funny. And then I didn't get a chance to watch the second part until yesterday. And I mean, you know, whatever you want to say about what I feel about what she said in response to, you know, I said what I have to say. I believe everybody knows where I'm coming from at this point. For the most part, I wasn't entirely impressed. Yeah. There was a lot of excuses. There was a lot of, you know, type things that she didn't put up a fantastic defense. Well, it was fair enough. And that's my perspective of it, and I could be wrong, and I'm sure a lot of people would think I'm wrong, and so on and so forth. And I'm sure people will question why it is I'm not bothering to answer it, and the reason is because I think we've gotten to a point now where we need to move past what we're doing, and if we're going to continue to talk to each other instead of getting to a point where we're talking at each other, we need to do it kind of face to face. Not face to face as such, but live and in person. You didn't really seem to have a whole lot of amazing perspectives on the video that we've been talking about, but you did say a couple of things that I don't exactly know how to take. At first I was extremely angry. But I've been having a rough go of it lately, with things as far as everything I'm seeing going on and the connections that I'm beginning to make, and what I'm beginning to learn more and more about. And the more knowledge you have, the more powerful you are. And I've always believed that with power comes responsibility. It's why that saying resonates with so many people. With great power comes great responsibility. Deep down inside, you understand what that means. You just, on the surface, sometimes you forget. But knowledge can also be a great burden. Especially if you feel that you know something is right there and you see it and it just seems like nobody's listening. And I've been learning a lot lately. You could say I've taken a accelerated course. I've been doing a lot of study lately into the human condition, the humanities, you might say. I mean, and it's just with everything that I've been doing in the past year and a half or so, I don't know. I'm at the point now where I'm seeing things in you. And I don't entirely think you understand or there. You said that you took the women's studies course, and I know you're going to roll your eyes at this, but you need to really listen. You said you took the women's studies course, and you took one class for one credit, for a requirement. You figured that would be the least painful of them to do, and I understand that. Which makes it sound as if you kind of, I don't know, it makes it sound like, but you learned a lot from that class, and I don't think you at any point looked into it. It's just a guess. You say you like to research, but it doesn't sound like you've done any on this subject. And if you have, it hasn't been from good sources. Because you then go on to talk about social pressures, right? And how it's social pressures that force people to act a certain way. And you brought up anorexia and attributed that to social pressure. And you brought up, I don't remember if you said black people or poor people or whatever, people in ghettos and whatnot. And you attributed some of that to social pressure. Now, I mean, it's not the class that upsets me. I know everything that's in that class. I know exactly what they've taught you. I've been learning it for the past year and a half. And I've, like I said, in the past couple of weeks, taken an accelerated course. And I know exactly what you're talking about when you say these things, especially when you use those buzzwords. I know what you mean. You might think that I don't know. You might think that I'm rejecting it out of hand. Whatever. But I'm a study on this. You've pegged me wrong. And just to dip our toes into social pressures, which we all used to call in the 90s, we used to call that peer pressure. It's the same exact thing. And we used to say, don't give in to peer pressure. Don't do drugs, kids, just because your friends are doing it. If all your friends walked off a bridge, would you follow right with them? It's the lemming complex. That's your social pressure. They dressed it up to make it sound a lot more grandiose than it ever could possibly be, because it just doesn't really exist. It's like hope and willpower. It only matters as much as you put into it. It all comes down to personal responsibility. Except in the case of anorexia, that's a mental disorder, but neither here nor there. We won't get into that. This is already bad enough. But what you're doing is you're excusing bad behavior and blaming it on society, which doesn't exist, can't be punished, can't be interacted with in any way. And God knows it's not there. It can't affect you unless you allow it to. A lot of people go against the grain. A lot of people trip outside the norm. And I've always acknowledged that. And God, I wish people would stop distracting by bringing that shit up. When I do make blanket statements, I do make them for a reason. And when I say that all women have this sickness that needs to be fixed, what I mean is, when you guys get controlled by your emotions, it's far different than when we do it. When men does it, there's still a whole lot of expectations on him. You're going to go, oh, it's funny that you're talking about social pressures and now you're bringing up social pressure. No. It's dangerous for us to fly off the handle and do whatever we want, right? It can be extremely dangerous for us. Now, when I say that, I'm also talking about everybody else. It can be dangerous. We realize that. We know that. We understand that we're strong. We get it. I don't think there's a man alive that really legitimately doesn't know his own strength. We know. And we understand what can happen if things go too far. And it's an exceptional thing to think that it's unusual that a person can understand the evil that's inside of them and have a mastery of it enough to say, I'm not going to do that. We're violent creatures. It's our testosterone. Going into biology, which is the next part of it. But our testosterone makes us violent creatures. Millions of years of evolution have made us violent creatures because, as I said before, somebody has to. And you guys are smaller and weaker than us. Now, not all. Shut up with that shit. Listen to what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying. Y'all are shorter and weaker and just not as strong as us. It's why we're generally the fighters. It's why it's been that way since time immemorial. And there were great spans of time all through history where there was great women warriors. But they were always the exception, whereas with men, it's the rule. Right? It's where we fit in society. It's a part of our role. And it's been that way forever. Now, we've come a long way. We're a lot more knowledgeable. Civilized is not the word. We're a lot more knowledgeable now. And we understand the world around us far greater. And those days are largely in the past. So we have to find our place in the world again. Part of our purpose has been taken from us. We have giant eagle. We don't need to go out and hunt. A lot of guys still do. They're recapturing the old ways. It isn't a necessity. So we're all very confused. And we have no good outlet. Because we can't do anything too terribly violent because that's bad. We can't enjoy things that are too terribly violent because that's bad. And it's actually in us, in our brain mapping, the spirit of play. And if you observe little girls when they play with each other, usually they play things like house and tea party and stuff like that. And what they're doing when they do that is they're learning how to interact with people in society, right? And boys, they're rough and tumble and they wrestle and all this, that, and the other thing. And they're doing the same thing. They're coming to grips with their role in society. And when you take that away, the children don't develop normally. And we've largely taken that away. It's not okay for boys to wrestle at recess and whatnot because it's violent, somebody could get hurt. And pain is also a part of life, very necessary. It goes a long way. A lot deeper than you've thought of it. But when you guys go off, man, you have no rules normally. And you have no rules when you guys are way out there. That's why it needs to be fixed greatest in women. Because men still have rules even when we've lost it. Because they're ingrained in us on a biological level. And you guys have no rules. So it can be very dangerous when you guys really go off. It can be really dangerous when we go off. Women like to keep you alive and just make you suffer. Women are punishers. Men will just kill you and your fucking problems are over. Women will destroy your soul. You say that I'm biased and he's known some really bad women. It's in all of you. And you got to come to grips with that. You have to understand that you can do great evil. That's a person thing. We can all do great evil. And we need to understand that. And we need to incorporate that in our being. And say, I understand that I can do great evil, but I won't. Because I'm good. And that's what good people do. And this societal pressure thing, it releases the cost of I can do it but I don't. It excuses why you do it. Because societal pressure says that, that poor black kid in the ghetto, he's got to be a gangbanger. That's what society says, so it's not surprising when he is. I'm always surprised when I find out that people have chosen to die young in gang violence as opposed to live a good long life and be thought of as weak or whatever. It always surprises me when people take that choice. Because again, I feel it's hubris. You think it's not going to happen to you. And you're very wrong. Sooner or later, you live by the sword, you die by it. It's an excuse. It's an excuse for bad behavior. It's an excuse for dangerous behavior. It's societal pressure. It's peer pressure. If your friends are all doing it, doesn't mean you have to. It's so funny for me because I seriously thought we had all this shit handled 20 years ago. What have they been teaching you guys? Have they not been teaching you guys to not bend to peer pressure? Or are they saying, well, it's inevitable now. You're gonna bend to peer pressure. So, I guess there's your excuse. Go ahead, do whatever you want. It's a total fallacy. It's a boogeyman. And it leads into many more dark subjects, and I'm sure you got those going around in your head too. And I'd like to discuss some of that stuff with you at length. And what you said about a man's role. I'm very sorry, but we are not sperm dispensers. That is not our only purpose. And I'm sure you didn't mean that and whatnot and so on. But it's what you said. And yes, I know you were talking about the animal kingdom. You bounced back and forth. I'm very confused. I don't actually even know if you ever actually addressed a human male's role in society, but it isn't as a sperm dispenser. It's not what we do. At least not entirely. So, I got a lot of questions for you, Valeda. And I would like to invite you to set a date and time with me, if you so wish, to do a hangout on my channel or some such the like. And we don't even need to make it public if you don't want to. Hey, I don't care. I got the Discord server kind of up and going. We're working on it. So we have options. But yeah, I see a lot of problems in your last video, the second, well, not your last video, the second part of that thing. I don't think you fully understand exactly what it is you're saying. I don't think you understand exactly how deep it goes and exactly how bad it is. But the things that you talked about already, they're brushing the surface of an ideology that has in the past already led to hundreds of millions of deaths. And that's why I'm so very serious about this, because people are starting to try and bring it back. And we've been there before, and we've stacked the bodies high. And as far as I'm concerned, I can already attribute deaths to it. It's resurgence. And it's rooted in the things you've been talking about. And before you continue to talk about those things, I really think you should take a look at some important material. I mean, everything else aside, it's all been goofy fun up until now, but you know, if you're baiting me, it's a poor joke. And if you really think that shit, man, you should really think again.